we had sorted dumpsters from the beginning, and then at the end we went to commingled. And in the end is when you really get a lot more trash than needed, so you really have to watch yourselves on that.
So single stream is available in Kansas City now, commingled?
It is.
For construction waste?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Exactly.
And is the cost per haul much more expensive than the cost per haul for kind of a recycling dumpster when you have to sort it?
It is expensive. Yeah. Not much more. I'd say about 25 to 50%.
Okay.
But not like 100% increase.
Right.
The biggest thing you'll see is the per ton dollars. Instead of trash, it's normally like a set dollar amount for a 40-yarder, where for commingled, it's like a set amount for the 40-yard plus X amount per ton, which I think is like $40 or $50 per ton. Sorry. Indoor environmental quality is the next slide. This is one you see, the ones here we typically see on a lot of projects, LEED or not LEED anymore these days. But here is a picture showing our construction IQ management plan. One thing to consider when doing this is taking multiple pictures in multiple locations weekly for your project and making sure you submit that. Because USGBC and GDCI want to see that you've done the management plan for the whole duration of the project. Not just a picture here in the beginning and then you let it go. We used low emitting materials, and then we also did thermal comfort design and verification. Here is a sample spreadsheet that was used on this project for tracking the low emitting materials. So we have the manufacturer, the product name, the VOC content, and then here we put the limits that are actually required by GDCI. So we made sure everything matched up when putting it in right away, so we didn't have to reference the book. And then here I thought was interesting, the thermal comfort verification survey. The owner actually does it every 3 months for the first 18 months, and he had to design and type out a process of what they're going to do. And then part of the questionnaire is the clothing ensembles that people wear. And I found this interesting because on the job site I'm at, in the office, it is freezing. I mean, me and another female are cold as can be, and yet guys, some guys are cold and some guys are fine. And so I thought it was cute, or interesting, not cute, how they ask like what you're wearing. Are you wearing pants and short sleeve? Are you wearing skirts and short sleeve? Are you wearing skirts and long sleeve? So they're trying to gauge like, well, are you dressing appropriately for the space or your typical body temperature? As I do for our job site, I dress for the job site office instead of for the 90-degree weather outside.
Yeah. Trousers.
Yes, trousers. Then I wanted to talk a little bit about the innovation and design process we did. The first credit we achieved was green housekeeping. Basically, we made sure that we signed up a green housekeeper and they maintained the site with green cleaning products. The second, the big part, was the educational component. The owner really wanted to make sure he not only educated his employees, but his customers and the community. And so we held events there, gave tours, we trained people, his own employees, to give tours, taught them about the systems. They also have departmental training meetings every month where they bring in a new topic that is something about the building and how it's changed. And then we also have educational signage posted throughout the building explaining what the different systems are. The last ID credit that wasn't the lead AP is the green power and the fact that the owner went to 100%, which is what we talked about earlier. And then thankfully, Kansas City's had 6 regional priority credits available, and you only get to get 4, but we were able to do the 4 that we needed to get those credits, which were the development density, the water efficient landscaping, the water use reduction, and then the construction waste management. So switching gears from the scorecard, I'm going to go on and talk about some challenges that the team faced throughout the project. First off was the architect that we worked with. This was like one of the biggest projects they've ever done. And so that was a little different with it being going for LEED Platinum and working with an architect that usually does smaller $500,000 to $1 million projects. So that was something we had to really work as a team together with. As we've talked about in class before, tracking information, staying on top of those LEED trackings you have to do in the LEED submittals. Third is subcontractor involvement. Kansas City back in 2009 wasn't very popular for LEED projects and buildings, and so making sure the subcontractor community was aware of what it was, what their responsibility was as a subcontractor, was very important. We held a LEED introduction class for the subcontractors, project managers, and foremen to come to. We also wrote the LEED requirements in our scopes of work, and then we required the foreman or superintendent for the sub to actually go through a LEED Green Associate training class or be a LEED professional. And so the USGBC in Kansas City held training classes, and I was teaching some of those classes, and some of the subs came up and was like, I'm on Posty cards, I have to take this class. So it was interesting, but good to know that they were actually following through with their requirements. One of the big things we faced was the LEED scorecard template changing, which I know we've also discussed in class, and how it started at the beginning with a 20% certified wood, and then the template at the end when we went to submit was 100%, and that we had to write a formal letter and show proof that what the scorecard was when we started the project and everything like that. So don't give up if something changes in the LEED template process during your project. You can normally work it through. Then there was some delays in the review process of the EA credits, especially credit 1 and prerequisite 1, and that's just because of the intensity. I mean, there were so many points, and to make sure the system actually works to achieve greater than the ASHRAE standard 90.1, that took a lot of time for the reviewers to get back to us in comments and everything. And then the last unfortunate one is there's some inconsistency with GBCI in the review process. One time you'll have somebody review it and give you this comment, and then you'll go and do that and get a different comment. And so really just documenting, keeping the logs and tracking everything is important, and hopefully someday you won't have this issue in the future. Last thing I really want to touch on is just some things to consider for future LEED projects. There's a lot of rebates and incentives out there for electricity, new market tax credits through the federal or state government, and then there's also some solar energies, and these are ones that specifically Posty Cards was able to achieve. Now there's many more, but I suggest that you as the owner or architect or engineer actually go search out that before you start developing your project and stuff. Another thing is LEED job sites. We at Turner have a green job site checklist, and so we try and make sure all of our job sites are using double-sided printing, recycling, not using throwaway cups and materials as much as possible, bringing in your own cup, coffee cup, lunch, whatever. Also making sure your subcontractors are educated like we talked about. I know it's easier on the coast. They're pretty well aware, but here in the Midwest and mountain range, sometimes we have to educate them a little more. And then, as always, make sure that it's one team, especially with this LEED process. You may have a lot of bickering back and forth, but remember you're all working together to achieve the goal of the owner to achieve whatever LEED certification standard they're going for. So in conclusion, we talked about Posty Cards, achieving LEED Platinum, and version 3.0 with 81 points. We also talked about the owner having the forefront of sustainability in the front of his mind. We reviewed the LEED scorecard and everything with it and how many points we got, and how creative water use technologies and energy usage reduction played a key role in this process. And then we also talked about the challenges faced by the team and just some things to consider with future LEED projects. Is there any more questions or comments? Here are the resources I used.
I've got a question.
Sure.
First, I want to say congratulations. This project really seems awesome and a really great achievement for the city and for our office out there. I was curious about our contract value was $5.3 million for construction cost.
Correct.
Did you guys have that broken out maybe in phases between the addition and the renovation?
We didn't.
Okay, or maybe indirectly, maybe not in the contract, but
I have to go look and talk to the senior PM on that, but I know in like the budget documents I was looking at, we didn't.
Right.
We did have 3 separate GMPs though. We had a site GMP, a building GMP, and an envelope GMP. So the way the drawings came out and were issued, we had those 3 different GMPs.
Okay. But the building GMP would include both the
Both
addition and the
addition
renovation.
and renovation.
Okay, that's interesting. I was just wondering because the $118 per square foot, you know, the biggest debate is what's the cost of LEED, and you got to LEED Platinum at $118 per square foot, and I would guess that the 5.3 million was mostly in the addition,
Correct.
right? So.
The
I mean,
biggest-
that doesn't seem like it would water down that dollars per square foot too much because you also have the renovation piece. I was just curious if you had any insight on that, why that dollar value is so cheap.
It's mostly because the type of the building. When you're there, it's concrete floors. The manufacturing space is really open. There's hardly any walls. The most thing is in the offices.
Right, a lot of open space.
A lot of open space. Not a lot of finishes per se. Just bare carpet, some sheetrock, paint, cabinets.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is most of the space is the manufacturing. If I go back to like this whole area is open, concrete.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's a metal building as well. The addition's a metal building. And only here is office space, and this is another open area. And so you really don't have a lot of cost there interior-wise.
And what's the
helps.
delineation of the addition versus the renovation?
The what?
The addition versus the renovation?
I believe this is the addition.
To the.
All of this. Right
Okay, so the original
This
building
was
was
the
just that L
original.
shape there.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so all of that is
Okay.
there.
So it's about double square
Yes,
footage wise.
Double,
Okay.
exactly. And they only had like a parking lot here, and we added this back here.
Cool.
Here's their truck drop-off area,
Mhm.
pickup.
Loading dock.
Loading up, exactly.
Cool.
Any
That's
other
awesome.
questions?
Well done.
All right, thank you.
Nice job.
Perkins, I had 3 Turner people here asking me questions, so I hope you appreciated it.
Bye, Perkins.